morning. This is The Take. I'm Pete Najarian for Market Rebellion. I got to tell you something. When we look at yesterday, another record-setting day. You take a look at the S&P, another new all-time high. You had the Dow pushing up really close. It was only about 40 points away from its all-time highs. Pulled off of that a little bit and actually still finished the day up about 95 points, but well off of those highs. And, maybe today, you never know. That's the way these markets have been. On the NASDAQ side of things, however, little bit of pressure, closed near the lows, actually finished off about 90 points. Both technology and semiconductors getting hit a little bit yesterday. Semis were off about 1% after that huge day on the previous trading session. And then technology as well, off about 0.6%. So makes a little bit of sense, giving back a little bit of that huge run that we had on Monday to the upside. Now it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of a thing. You look at NVIDIA and PayPal and Salesforce, Google, Apple, Tesla, AMD, all those kind of names. Nice moves in previous sessions, but yesterday, a little bit of pressure coming on some of these names, pushing it to the downside. We did have crude continuing that march a little bit higher, closed right around 76. You look over at volatility, getting really, really back into that teens and holding in that 17 range. As a matter of fact, yesterday, the range for the volatility index was about 17.5 to 18.5. We did finish on those lows right around 17.5. I'll tell you, we were just talking about this. John and I were just talking about this before I came on, just looking at some of the volumes, and I was going back, couldn't find it, what I was looking for. But yesterday's volume, 27.8 million contracts. Now, let's just look back to the very first week in December where we were averaging about 50 million contracts per day. Gives you a little bit of a sense of how much we've pulled back. And as we've pulled back during the holidays, which is far more normal, we are seeing far more of a normal trend that you see in holidays where, yes, a lot of the volume is going to be a lot less than whatever it was going into the final couple weeks of the year. It's exactly what we're seeing. But boy, just an amazing thing to see. I went all the way back to July. I could not find a day where we were at this level of volumes that what they had yesterday. That includes half days along the way as well. So 72% of the trade yesterday in Apple was on the call side. It was the only category or name that actually was over 1 million contracts yesterday, 1.3 million contracts trading in Apple. Gives you another bit of a sense of the depth of what I'm talking about here. So where were the strengths? Where were the weaknesses yesterday? Strengths, airlines, had a nice little bit of a bounce. You had American Airlines, Delta Airlines, also with energy as it moved up towards that 76 number. You had names like Valero, Phillips 66 moving to the upside. And on the retail front, had a pretty decent day as well. Walmart had a very nice trading session. Target added a little bit yesterday as well, adding more today. And Home Depot had a pretty good day. Some of the names, not everything in retail was really working all that well. If you look at Kohl's, you look at Bed Bath & Beyond, some of those names definitely under some pressure. Also with some pressure to the downside, some of those casino names that had that pop, now they got a little bit of selling pressure. You look at Penn, you look at MGM, some of those names definitely under the gun. We talk about Peloton all the time. I'm not trying to beat up on the stock, but you do get frustrated with a lot of people when the stock's trading 150 to 190 telling you how great that stock is. And yet you look around and say, is it? And it shouldn't be here. And what are their earnings? And what is their PE ratio? And all of the different metrics that we look at fundamentally just didn't add up. Now we take a look at Peloton and it's trading a lot closer to 35 than it is to 40. It's just an amazing pullback. It was down about 4% yesterday. Chinese names also under pressure once again. JD, Baidu, some of those names all a little bit of a slide to the downside. So the market started off really, really slow today. I was looking at, you look over and you see the Dow barely up maybe 20 points, maybe something like that. NASDAQ was up a little bit early. Matter of fact, that NASDAQ started to march a little bit first 10, 15, 20 minutes of the day, and then started to see a little bit of pressure, a little bit of selling. Last I looked, the NASDAQ was down maybe 80 points, 60 to 80 points, somewhere in that range. We had the Dow actually continue to accelerate to the upside. It was up 100 points. Last I looked, it was trading up about 60, 70 points, something like that. So a little bit of a positive day, and some of the main names within the Dow having a nice participation in this in certain areas, certain sectors that are rallying. Now, here's the interesting flip. You start off the day and you've got technology trading up about 0.5%, semiconductors trading up about 0.5%. Now both of them were trading, last I looked, down about 0.25%. That flip is exactly what we're seeing there, where we were up maybe 20 or 30 points and then started that pullback that we were seeing. Energy also down a little bit early. It was down about 0.75%, now down only about a 0.25%, something like that. Financials were up about a 0.25%. That kind of eased back a little bit as well. So you got volatility still hanging right around that 17, call it 1750, 1775, somewhere in that sort of a range. Bitcoin, I hadn't hit on that recently, but a little selling. Bitcoin's been all over the map. We all know that, but just over about 47,000, 47,400 last I looked, but it moves pretty rapidly. So it's most likely somewhere other than that right now. But I'll tell you, I'm always trying to see what are some of the positives, where are we seeing positives and the negatives in the markets that are, sort of pushing these major indices around. So Western Digital having a really great day today. That stock was up 5.5%, 6% early on. A nice surge to the upside. You also had participation again from Micron Technology. We'll be talking about that one in just a second. Yeah, that name has been absolutely on fire. Throw in a little bit of Home Depot, up again, up about 0.8%. Gap stores, Target sort of chipping in a little bit, along with Nike. Nike is one of the drivers of the Dow today, all up about 1.5% or more. But there's some negatives out there. I look over in Moderna. This is all over the place, but it seems like Moderna just cannot really catch its footing that it once had. So Moderna down about 3% today. Cruise ships down as well. Look over at something like a Carnival Cruise. That was under a little bit of pressure, at least early on. Airlines, a little bit of pressure. You got United and American and Delta and all the major carriers with a little bit of a move to the downside, along with Chinese names. I look at PDD, I look at NetEase, I look at Trip.com. You've heard what I've talked about these Chinese names. I'm looking at Didi in the background before I came on here. I'll tell you what, the more the government is involved in a lot of these various names in the Chinese side of things, it does make you start to question and wonder. And we've all had our run-ins, it seems like, with something in the Chinese world in terms of these stocks of late over the last couple of years. And now it just seems to be accelerating the process and some of the regulations that they're doing and all the rest of that. You can just take a look at Didi and you can see that stock price. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That's why the derivatives markets, in my opinion, is the only way to be involved in any of those kinds of names. So Boeing, also a little bit of pressure to the downside today. That's been up and down 1%. It seems like it's been just bopping around somewhere just above, just below that 200 level in terms of the stock. So two unusuals, and I got the halftime reports, double today for me. I got the halftime report and fast money later on in the afternoon as well, 5 o'clock Eastern. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm going to be a little bit busy. Micron, trading just underneath 95. It was trading 94.87. And we had a buyer of, again, 23,000 of the December. Yeah, they expire on Friday. Today's already Wednesday. December 31 first expiring. These calls, 80 cents up to $1.50 for the 95 strike calls. So it's right there. And basically just saying, you know what? We think this stock has a chance to explode a little bit more to the upside. As a matter of fact, just after this call buying, it did have a little bit of a pop over 95. Not sure where it is right now, but certainly some very, very large options, very similar to what we saw the other day, where all of the different options we were seeing expire on Friday, December the 31st. So very interesting. And this is another sizable trade that just adds into that whole thing. My second one for you today, GSK, trading just over 44. Now, this one's got a pretty decent sized buyer as well. We talk about healthcare stocks all the time. Glaxo, this one got a buyer of 5,000 of the January 7th. So a little bit more time. You get a week and a half, call it. The 45 strike call. So just above where the stock is trading at 44.15 right now. 25 cents up to about 32 cents. Much lower volatility. Gives you a little bit of time. Could it make it up there? Very, very close already. We'll see. We'll keep a close eye on this one as well. Folks, have a great day of trading. Derivatives are the greatest thing in the world. We're seeing a little bit of a pullback to normalcy here and there, and I'm still kind of scratching my head a little bit how the CDC has taken a page from all the major sports on how they're actually dealing with COVID. Makes you kind of scratch your head a little bit on what are the priorities here. We'll see. Very interesting, though. I got to tell you what, I look forward to seeing the halftime report. My Golden Gophers had a big win last night. Late night game, but still a lot of fun. Not the most exciting game to watch, but I'll tell you what, it was great to see the Golden Gophers win 5 different bowl games in a row. You got to love that. Folks, have a great day of trading.